Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at a time, and some of the examples I will give, pardon me, will be focused on my county of Nairobi, because that is where I'm elected to represent. Nairobi, for instance, Nairobi County, two of the biggest problems in Nairobi County, Mr. Speaker, number one is a lack of a proper mass transit system. A mass transit system that involves rail, involves rapid bus, involves, road network. Mr. Speaker, the cost of such a system, as it is, cannot be afforded by a county like Nairobi, because you need to do a proper train system, the ones we see in any 21st century global hub, which Nairobi is. We need rail that moves from the biggest nodes, from the biggest trunk, which is Thika Road, up to this other side of town. One going that way, and another one ideally where we have put the expressway, which is why initially I wasn't for it, because that should be train. The more roads you do, the more traffic you'll get. There's a book I'll recommend to senators by the biographer of Lyndon Baines Johnson, but it's about a man called Robert Moses. It's about Robert Moses and the fall of New York. And now Robert Moses, for almost 40, 50 years, just kept on building roads and roads and roads in New York City. And that's why to date, instead of focusing on mass transit, he just did roads. And to date, they still have a big problem. Of course, they have the subway that reduces some of the pressure. They have some train, they have Amtrak. But beyond that, it's a mess. Yeah? Because the more roads we do, we did Thika Road, hoping that now it will reduce traffic. And everybody moved towards Thika Road. And you don't want to be on Thika Road at 7 a.m. anymore, Mr. Speaker. So what I'm saying, like a proper mass transit system that we need in Nairobi, proper. The Japanese did a plan with JICA, cost 400 million. 100 million was paid by Nairobi City Council, 300 was paid by the Japanese. If you look at that plan with the nodes, where, Mr. Speaker, you leave your car, whether it is at, Roysambu, or you leave your car at Ngong, you leave your car wherever it is, there's a proper parking silo and a clean train that at 7 a.m., there's a 7 a.m. train, there's a 7:15 train, there's a 7:20 train, which gets into town at this time. And then there's a circular nodes. You can move from Kasarani to South Sea. Mr. Speaker, such a project would probably cost 100 billion. Because I know, and I'm just saying based on how we do our budgeting here, because Addis Ababa has done theirs at close to 45 billion. Less than the cost of the expressway. But Mr. Speaker, such a project cannot be funded by Nairobi County on its own, because, Mr. Speaker, our revenues are around 12 billion. Maybe now they'll go up because of sectional properties bill to something more, maybe double that. But ultimately, we have an annual budget of 32B. So what do you do? Mr. Speaker, what you do, in many jurisdictions do, is what you call an infrastructure bond, Mr. Speaker. And in such an infrastructure bond, that's just one example, where you can discount the revenues that we know for sure will come to Nairobi for the next 30 years with 100 billion. As governor of Nairobi, I'd be able to afford 3 billion a year. 3 billion a year into that project, and then it can be a PPP project, Mr. Speaker, even, where you build, operate, and transfer. There are many people around the world who are willing to come put money in that mass transit system in Nairobi and collect the bus fare or the train fare for the next 20 years. This bill talks about a maximum of 30 years. You'll have improved the lives of Nairobians without depending on what you get every month from Nairobi. Another issue is water, Mr. Speaker. The water problem in Nairobi cannot and will not be sorted out by Nairobi Water or NMS by digging boreholes, half of which now are not working. 80% of Nairobians, Mr. Speaker, a global capital again, a hub, have never experienced a shower, like a shower coming from the top of their head, because there's no piped water. If you look at the water infrastructure in Nairobi, it was set in years ago, 50 years ago, a lot of it. In fact, there are two systems, one of which is the former railway system, where the railway houses are found in Nairobi. They have their own parallel system, but some of it has been efficient. But some of them, of course, there's strain. For instance, Kileleshwa, where there are a lot of railway houses and Upper Hill. The same acreage now has almost 100 times the number of people because of the apartments. So you need a complete overhaul of the infrastructure of water and sewerage in Nairobi County. Will the county government afford that? Because the two issues we have, Mr. Speaker, number one is the quantity of water coming into Nairobi, and that's why we support this Northern Collector Tunnel business, as well as improvements under Kaine. But it's not enough. The number of millions cubic meters Nairobians need is much more. So you first need the quantity, but on top of the quantity, the infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, today, We have cartels who, what they do, I don't know, cartel is normally a word used by lazy leaders. When they don't solve a problem, they say they're cartels. But the cartels, what they've done, because of the physical, the manual nature of this system, where there were levers and the taps, the physical ones, you find a house has been built around it, and it's locked. And there's only one person who knows where that lever of opening is, and he has a water truck business. So they come there, they take the water. Non-revenue water in Nairobi is 46%. Non-revenue water. So it's not even enough, and even the little that's there is not getting. So what you need is to overhaul the entire infrastructure, put in what you call SCADA technology. That technology, Mr. Speaker, shows you where is there leakage. As governor, you look at your phone, or as a official in the water department. From your own phone, you can tell where water has been cut. It's been cut in Hurlingham, and you sort it out. Or it's been cut in Kasarani, or in Mukuru, and you sort it out. Now, such an investment to sort that out, as it is currently constituted, Nairobi County government cannot do it. It won't do it. And you'll have a lot of piecemeal plastic bandage solutions to problems that can be sorted out with a long-term focus. And that is why I completely laud this bill and this new approach of looking at public projects, which ordinarily, and there are two types. There are those which ordinarily you don't afford at a go, as a county government or as a national government. But number two, there are others which, by removing it from your balance sheet, by engaging the private sector to fund and getting it off your balance sheet, then you get increased fiscal space to engage in other areas, social areas that you can, use your money better.